Hawaii. We can start talking about volleyball then.
Okay, I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Insurance Benefits and Ledge Committee for Wednesday, May 5th.
Right.
Okay, this meeting is being conducted virtually, so I will do a roll call of the trustees to confirm attendance. Mr. Knox,
Here.
Mr. Santos,
Here.
Ms. Gray. I'll come back to you. Mr. Bernstein,
Here, and I think I heard Ms. Gray.
I did too. Mr. Oakham,
Here.
Mr. Moore,
Here.
Mr. Kehoe,
Present.
Ms. Zapanta, Mr. Pryor,
Here.
Mr. Harris,
Here.
Chair Robbins.
I am present.
Staff participating in the meeting includes CEO Santos Kryman, AEO JJ Popowich, Interim Chief Counsel Johanna Fontenot, Legislative Affairs Officer Barry Liu, from Retiree Healthcare, Cassandra Smith, Director, and Kathy Magida, consultants Stephen Murphy, Paul Sadro, Richard Ward, Michael Zito from Siegel. Trustees, if you have a comment or a question on any item, please use the Zoom chat option to be placed in queue. At this time, we ask all meeting participants to mute your mics until you are ready to speak, and we may now proceed with the agenda.
Thank you very much. We're on item 1A, approval of the minutes of the committee meeting of April 15th. I need a motion, a second.
So moved.
Did I hear a second?
Second.
Okay. Are there any changes or amendments? Hearing none.
We'll do the roll call. Ms.
Do the roll.
Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Kehoe?
Aye.
Mr. Oakham?
Aye.
Chair Robbins?
And I.
Motion passes unanimously.
We're on to item 2, public comment. Is there anyone from the public?
I have no requests for public comment.
Thank you very much. We're on item 3A, Mr. Liu, the engagement report for April 2021.
Yes, good morning. Thank you, Chair Robbins, and good morning, trustees. A few items of interest for you. Some of the items here concern pension reforms. So the state of Vermont recently proposed a pension reform proposal that would have trimmed benefits and increased contributions. They're trying to deal with a $3 billion unfunded liability. Certainly that proposal was controversial, so it was dropped by the Speaker of the Vermont House. Instead, what they'll do is create a task force to figure out new revenue sources and how to address the pension debt. But in addition to creating the task force, they're also going to revamp their Vermont Pensions Investment Committee because some legislators were concerned over the performance of the fund and its investments. So it'll basically change the 7-member investment committee to a 10-person commission with, I think more people with financial experience on that commission. And then in Florida, there's also a pension reform bill, Senate Bill 884, which would basically, starting July 1st, 2022, exclude most employees from the pension plan and put them in a 401k plan instead. However, safety members such as police and firefighters would remain in the pension plan. And so they're dealing with a $36 billion liability, and they're about 82% funded. It's a pretty large plan. They've got 644,000 active employees and 432,000 retired employees. So Dan Doonan, the executive director of a pretty good organization that is a good resource for us, the National Institute of Retirement Security, discusses some of the issues related to closing plans. And so a lot of times the legacy cost of a pension plan may go up if you were to cut off a key revenue source by closing the plan down. And then, of course, it impacts recruitment and retention of employees because a pension benefit is considered a very valuable benefit compared to, say, a 401k plan. And just in the experience of other jurisdictions that have closed their pension plans, some jurisdictions have had to reopen them due to increased costs from closing their plans, such as from Palm Beach or the West Virginia system. And then other jurisdictions that have closed their plans didn't really see any improvements in their funded status. So those were some of the items he discussed, with regard to this issue. And then over in Alaska, the Supreme Court recently restored retirement benefits. Essentially, this issue had to do with their Tier 1 plan. So their Plan A had been closed to new members, but and as far they created subsequent tiers. But I think their plan provisions provided that former employees of their Tier 1 could restore to that plan, but they set a date of 2010 in which they had to return to work in order to be eligible for that. And the Supreme Court ruled that that line was really arbitrary and contrary to the Alaska Constitution. So they have in their Constitution basically a vested rights provision that says it's a contractual relationship as far as pension benefits are concerned, and accrued benefits cannot be diminished or impaired. So this was basically a restoration rights issue, and it's kind of similar to what we have. We have Plan A members who took out their contributions. If they return to work, they can restore to their prior plan. And then lastly is an interesting paper from the Brookings Institute about the sustainability of public pension plans. A lot of times from what you hear from think tanks, organizations about pension plans is that there's an unfunded liability, and that it would basically put a lot of pressures on plan sponsors, and that there's a sort of a stark choice between making contributions to the pension plan versus having enough resources for public services. So what this paper looks at is the fact that as a whole, pension plans can be stabilized with relatively moderate fiscal adjustments, and that full funding, although desirable, may not necessarily be the right thing to do compared to investing in public services such as education or infrastructure. So they looked at a sample of 40 state and local plans, and a number of California plans are included in there, including us, LACERA. They also had CalSTRS, San Francisco, the UC system, the San Diego systems in there. So they discussed the fact that a lot of research discusses how, or based on the assumption that a plan should be fully funded, but the authors observed that, most plans have never been fully funded, and that being able to pay benefits in perpetuity doesn't necessarily require full funding. And they modeled kind of different scenarios based on rates of return, such as 0%, 2.5%, and 5%, to see, well, under those scenarios, when will a plan exhaust its assets? And generally, under the 5% model, a lot of the plans would never be exhausted. So it's an interesting perspective on kind of pushing back on a narrative that's always a stark choice between fully funding your plans versus what's available for public resources. So that concludes my report. Happy to take any questions.
Anyone have any questions? I always like it when people refer to public pension plans as a big Ponzi scheme. And I've actually heard that from some retired deputy sheriffs in our county too, which makes me want to climb through the computer screen and slap them up the side of the head. But any other comments?
Yeah, may I make a comment?
Sure.
Thank you. Mr. Liu, thank you very much for that presentation. My comment is that, gee, when we look at what's going on in the different states, Florida, Vermont, and others, it's quite clear we're still under attack. It's just amazing to see what all these other states are doing, and very discouraging. Thank God for California. Even in California, we always have to look behind our backs because there's somebody after us. It's just ironic to me that rather than trying to expand this type of benefits to all workers, they just want to take it away from the public employees. And somehow or another, I get the impression that they want us to just work for free. You know, they want the police officers to go up there and expose their lives in the line of duty for free, and the firefighters the same thing, and so on and so forth. It just, why are we citizens in this country, or some believe that we should all be working for free and we should not be entitled to any benefits? Obviously, I'm not preaching to the converted, but I just have to say it. It's just an outrage what's going on across this country.
Anyone else? Or on the staff activities report, Cassandra?
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Just to report to you, our Medicare Part B, DPC has informed me that they've cleared the backlog of scanning. So everyone that has come in during the period since we first opened and informed members to submit their verification has been scanned in. The only ones that are incoming are the ones that are trickling in now. It looks like there's approximately an 11% increase from what we had last year. One of the challenges that we're having though, is we're seeing that some members are tending to send in multiple or duplicate copies of stuff. And it requires the staff to go through each one to verify whether or not it's a duplicate or if it's a new submission that they're submitting. So that's taking time for them to go through. But we're also informing the members, because they're also calling now after they sent it, they want instantaneous response, which is not possible. We're letting the members know that they will continue to pay their amount, or we'll continue reimbursing them the amount that they were getting reimbursed last year and making the adjustments accordingly when we get to their work objects. We're processing approximately 200 of those per day in addition to our regular additional enrollments and all of that stuff. Retired healthcare is still in the midst of the March rush because all of those people's now insurance is becoming effective in May. So we're still in the trenches of our March rush. Hopefully that'll be cleared out as well soon. But that's it as far as the Medicare Part B. We currently have about 9,200 that we still need to process in queue. But they're working diligently. And I give kudos to my staff as well as the DPC unit for getting those scanned in for us to get processed for our members. And then also you may have noticed on my staff activity report, I told you that we are aware of a class action lawsuit that Anthem Blue Cross is involved in, the Blue Cross Blue Shield plan. We don't have very much information other than what I shared with you within the staff activity report. We do know that some of our members did receive emails and postcards regarding this lawsuit. As far as getting additional information, we've outreached Anthem Blue Cross, and our representatives really don't have any more than what we found on the website, which is what they gave to us. But as we find out more information or questions that we may have, we will definitely be keeping your committee informed of the status and the outcomes. That's it for staff activity report.
Cassandra, would it be correct to make the statement that working remotely has exacerbated staff's ability to deal with the Part B reimbursements and everything else?
Yeah, it has. Again, yeah, with the scanning, it was delayed, and then the processing now, because like I said, people want a response, like they send it and they're calling us on the phone, did you get it? And it doesn't happen that fast. And so they're sending multiple. I mean, we've seen some members sending up to 3 and 4 times, but the staff have to go through it to make sure, is this an updated copy? Is this a new copy? You know, and so it's just taking time, a toll on the staff.
Yeah, I forwarded an email to you that I got this morning. Actually was routed to me from RELAC from a retiree who went so far as to claim that we are not processing these as quickly as we otherwise could because somehow LACERA is benefiting financially by not doing that. You know, it's helping our bottom line investment wise. I'll deal with her in my own way, but she seems to have riled up a few people, but you've got her letter and it's lengthy and it's about 4/5 garbage, but it is what it is. So
Yeah, it looks like last year we had over 19,000. This year we've gotten over 21,600.
wow. Any other questions for Cassandra? Move on to C, claims experience. Mr. Murphy.
Good morning, committee. Up on your screen is the latest experience report through March of 2021. Again, first page will give you an idea of the distribution of both enrollment and premium costs. Next page will give you a breakdown of kind of the different costs. One, historically, that chart across the top, and we'll update that once we get past July 1st to reflect the most recent renewal terms. The chart on the bottom is probably of interest, is that we're seeing a decline for both Anthem and Kaiser, and that's very much reflective of the experience during the most recent 12 months, which includes that COVID impact due to the cancellation or suspension of non-essential services. But the Cigna population, as we've discussed before, is a very small and maturing population. And this is reflective of some of the large claim activity that we're seeing, and we'll have another exhibit that'll detail that a little bit further. This chart is a summation of the different experience for the various Anthem plans. Again, as you can see across the continuum, the Anthem plans on a combined basis on the far left, and then the individual plans moving from left to right. We're seeing a decrease over the prior year, again, reflecting the impact of COVID. The prudent buyer had a slight increase of 2.2%. Again, that's a relatively small population subset, so not surprising to see that. And then the Medicare Plan 3, the Medicare Supplement Plan, also saw a decrease over the most recent 12 months. Here's an updated experience report from Kaiser. I think what's interesting is this is coverage, again, through March, so it gives us a good indication of well, actually through 11/30 for Kaiser because they have a delay. But what's important here is that the impact of COVID, we saw a reduction in the total claims per member per month over the prior period of about almost 5%. But even during COVID, we still had issues with regard to truly essential services. In the prior period, we had 5 large claimants and kind of average inpatient days per thousand of 299. During the most recent period, we actually had, again, 5 large claimants, slightly higher overall total, and the average inpatient days per thousand was 356. That's an increase of almost 19%. So you can see that care was still necessary over the course of the year, but again, varies and fluctuates. The chart here gives you a little more insight into the experience under the Cigna plan. So again, when we're looking at the large claimants, that's individuals that have claims exceeding the pooling level. So we had an 82% increase on a per retiree basis for Cigna over the most recent 12 months, and nominal increases for the other 2 plans. And you can see the percent of members that exceed the pooling level is relatively small for both Anthem and Kaiser, and much more distinct with respect to Cigna. The next chart summarizes the activity related to the prescription drug rebates. Despite the slight reduction period over period, we're looking at roughly the same amount per retiree per month in terms of rebates. So again, holding steady there, so which is good. And then the last exhibit in the experience is detailing the dental and vision experience. And again, definitely related to and reflective of the COVID activity, which was a significant decrease during the period to reflect the initial shutdown for non-essential coverages. Any questions on the experience report?
Questions?
I got one question. Can you go over this and tell me specifically the rebates? Is that 15.1%, 13.1%? Are those rebates, or where are the rebates? How does this chart? I don't quite understand that.
Sure. Let me go back to that page. Computer chance to catch up.
Right there, yeah.
Yep. So you're looking at the top chart or the bottom chart?
Well, both of them.
Okay.
I don't know where the rebates are, or is, you know.
Okay, so what we're doing is we're taking the aggregate rebates received by LACERA and then allocating those out over per retiree per month, just for comparative purposes, period over period. So the first chart on the far left is covering 2018 calendar year. So the average rebate per retiree was 107. And that was a 15% increase over the prior period. So not shown on this chart, but from 2017. If you look at 2019, it's a 13% increase from the prior period.
Okay, I got you.
2020, it's slight, just a slight reduction. And then
Okay.
as a percentage of total claims, you can see how much the rebates represent, which has been holding fairly steady between 22 and 24%.
Okay, what will that work out for LACERA? Any idea this year where we're going?
I would have to go back and see if I can aggregate that on the fly, but it's I think we're looking at if it's 120 per retiree per month, and it applies to the Anthem plans. So I think it'd be 120 times what's
Okay,
all Anthem plans, about 120 times 19,000.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for not making me do the math on the fly.
I didn't think volleyball players could do math, but that's beside the point, Steve.
If it goes beyond 5 digits or 5 sets, I'm in trouble.
Any other questions for Stephen? Item D, Steve, federal legislation.
I can make this one extremely brief. But the only thing on the horizon that is of note is the public health emergency has been extended through July 20th of this year. So it's basically added another 90 days to that cycle. That'll impact how benefits are paid with respect to testing and vaccines, et cetera. So that process will continue. It can be extended further or it could end sooner, but it would be the discretion of the governmental agencies to dictate that. So that is our kind of summary report for federal legislation.
Thank you very much. Any questions on that topic from anyone? We're on item 4, items for staff review. Terry?
I have nothing.
And good of the order. So Vivian,
I have nothing.
JP,
Nope, I'll pass.
Mr. Moore,
I have nothing to add.
anyone on the committee have anything for good of the order?
Yeah, I do.
Okay,
I'd just like to thank Cassandra and her staff and her team for the great job that they do. And it looks like, I'm not going to put any pressure on you, Cassandra, but we should be in order for renewal someplace where we were last year. It can't be any worse, I don't think, based on those numbers. So congratulations and thanks what you do for LACERA and the members.
Mr. Kryman, anything?
No, nothing to add. Just thank you, Cassandra and her staff. I know that they've sacrificed many Saturdays as well to try to get this work processed. And so I just want to recognize her staff and DPC and echo the sentiments, Mr. Oakham.
JJ, anything?
Nothing. I'll just echo Mr. Kryman's comments. Thank you.
And Mr. Liu, any last parting words of wisdom?
Nothing from me, but good to see everybody. Thank you.
And I think that pretty much does it. So we're ready for a motion to adjourn.
Les, I
Yes.
have one thing I want to
Okay.
let the committee about. Just to give you guys an update, I've been working with Ted Granger and myself with Milliman and Siegel on the Lifetime Max project. We've gotten a timeline, a potential timeline from them based off of when we are able to get the data from the county. We have been informed from the county at this time that we can get data back to at least 2010, but we're trying to get beyond that to see how far back we can get to begin the comparison for the lifetime maximum. So we can compare the benefit design, the benefit ratio, the cost ratio and all. And then we will get back to your committee with any information and the updates as we become more knowledgeable on it. We're trying to schedule a meeting with the county so we can try to get a collaboration and an agreement of the assumptions that we will be using. So hopefully that will cut back some of the time on the decision when it comes time for them. And we'll all be in agreement, hopefully. But we'll get back to you with as we get more information.
And I'll just close with, yesterday I'd gotten an email from a couple, both retirees from the county. And the wife has been dealing with, I guess, a pretty serious long-term case of cancer for quite a while. And they were shocked to find out that the prescription drugs, the specialty drugs that she is taking for her cancer treatment, I mean, we're talking thousands of dollars a month. And all of that adds to the lifetime cap. And they didn't quite understand how all that worked. And Cassandra got a hold of them and you know, explained it to them. But this guy's wife, if she lives long enough, she's probably going to exceed the cap. And they're an Anthem Blue Cross too. I don't think they're Medicare eligible at all. They live in California, I believe. So there may be some options for them down the road, but they're kind of a typical example of somebody who is taking some pretty high-powered and very expensive pharmaceuticals weekly. So serious stuff.
Yeah.
Anything else before we, well, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We are adjourned.